So let's start with my first question for you today. Many paths lead to the world of vintage fashion. Can you share us with the moment or series of events that ignited your passion for vintage and ultimately led you to open your own store?
Hi, and thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure talking to everybody, and I hope you find our podcast somewhat helpful. My passion for vintage bags started a very, very long time ago. I've been doing that. I've been collecting bags and selling bags for many, many years, decades to be exact. It's quite a journey. I always loved bags. I think it's very, very common to love beautiful things. So it's a passion that is, well preserved over the years, and it's been a great journey.
In the last podcast, you mentioned that you started out by selling your merchandise on such platforms like PoshMark, Vestiaire, and The Real Real before you opened your own store. What were your observations about these platforms and how did they influence your decision? Perhaps you could share some stories about these platforms?
Yes, I think it would be helpful to for me to go over those four major platforms for selling things. So let's start with the biggest one, and it's going to be eBay, and it's a humongous platform. You could buy and sell everything. I found it to be very helpful to buy things off of eBay, not so much to sell. It just the thing is that eBay favors the buyer, not the seller. So you have a hard time sometimes in terms of returns and not very honest and truthful, faithful customers. Let's move on to Poshmark. Poshmark used to be fantastic, and I think it still is, but not as much as for luxury brands. It's fantastic to sell your Lululemon shorts or maybe your Nike top, but not your vintage luxury items. I say that because unfortunately, with Poshmark, you have a lot of counterfeit items, and even though they authenticate, over $500 merchandise, if you sell something or buy something that is under $500, so there is a gray area out there. Also, when it comes to customer service, they don't have a phone number, so you have to do the email. And once again, they favor more the buyer rather than the seller. And the amount of merchandise that's being sold out there is so huge that it's very, very easy to get lost for a seller. And next one would be the Vestiaire Collective. It started out as Tradizi and then it merged into Vestiaire. It's an international platform rather than a local one. So Poshmark is just the local place. Vestiaire is a international one. So you have sellers and buyers from all over the world, and it's great. It's more luxury oriented. You don't really see as many counterfeit or shady merchandise out there. But once again, there is no phone number. If there is a problem, something like that, you have to write an email. And unfortunately, a lot of times, the email comes back to you and it's the bot that is replying rather than the real person, and it gets lost. Your question gets lost along the way, and it's really, really hard dealing with that. In terms of the fees, both the Poshmark and the Vestiaire Collective are similar, around 20% that they collect, as their fees. So you're allowed between 80 and 85%. If you're an expert seller or a professional seller on Vestiaire, you have a little bit of a decreased selling fee, but not as much. So they're pretty similar, but I think Vestiaire is more targeted towards luxury rather than Poshmark. Last but not least, the Real Real, which is also the flagman of luxury. It's fantastic. It's very different from the other ones just because you actually send in your merchandise for them to authenticate and for them to price. Yes, you could just tell them how much you want this item to be sold, but there is also a market value, and they are very aggressive with discounting your merchandise, and you have to be checking, just making sure that you're getting the price that you want this item to be sold for. And otherwise, their selling fees are so big that you're left with almost nothing. If the merchandise, for example, you are selling a bag and it's less than $200, they, I believe, are charging 55%. and you're left with almost nothing. So with real, it's great. But if you have very expensive merchandise, where the market, the people that would want to buy your bag is not that big, then the real is your place. But other than that, I would be careful there. Otherwise, you're going to be left with nothing.
Deciding to open your own store, especially in a market with established platforms, is a bold move. What were the key factors that convinced you to start your own vintage shop instead of leveraging these existing platforms?
I think opening up my own store was not only a bold move, but I think it was a move that was prompted by the circumstances. I was getting overwhelmed by handling four different platforms. Imagine you have merchandise everywhere. A thing gets sold on Poshmark. You have to, to take it off from the other platform. It's just getting overwhelming. Sometimes it's getting frustrating with the returns and with the different questions that the customers asked. Also, the like I said, with different platforms, I had a situation with customer service where the question was raised and it wasn't answered on time by the customer service on the different platforms. I didn't feel personal on those platforms at all. I felt like just just like a little piece of sand on a beach. I was getting lost, I was getting overwhelmed, I was getting frustrated, and I thought that it was the time for me to start doing something on my own.
In a competitive market, being different is key. How does your vintage store stand out from the options available on Vestiaire, Poshmark, eBay, and The Real Real? What unique value do you offer to your customers?
Having my own store gives me freedom. I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to my own store. I'm able to create, I'm able to sell, I'm able to buy. I am the key factor there. I don't have to rely on any external factors. It's all about me. It's like playing an individual sport. So it's just all about me. Whatever I could do, that's what I get back. So that's what makes it so unique and so dear to me, because I was able to have a say how my merchandise is being represented, the storefront. I'm able to answer questions directly that my customers might have. I don't have to rely on anybody to do that for me. So that gives me freedom. And when it gives me freedom, it gives me satisfaction. I feel that it's my own and I treat it as my own.
Every entrepreneurial journey comes with its set of challenges. What have been some significant hurdles in establishing your own store, and how have you overcome them? How does running your own store compare to the challenges sellers face on platforms like eBay or Poshmark?
There are pros and cons to having your own store. Not pros and cons, but the ups and downs. Let's put it this way. The biggest up is that you're your own boss. You're able to do whatever you wish because that's your own home. That's your own place. But you got to make sure that people do come to your place. They come to your home and they feel cozy and warm and welcomed. Um, so this is the biggest challenge as far as attracting the people, the customers, to get into your store, and that's where marketing comes. But I guess that is the biggest challenge that we've faced when it comes to comparing selling in your own store versus the established platforms. But I was getting so annoyed and frustrated and lost in the big platforms that I had no choice pretty much, and that was a logical step, for me to start selling on in my own store versus the established platforms.
A major advantage of having your own store is the ability to curate the customer experience. How do you create a memorable experience for your visitors, and in what ways do you build a community around your store?
Customer satisfaction is our utmost priority. So since we are able to communicate with customers pretty much 24/7, we are able to give them as much care and support as possible. So we're there for our customers. You don't have to wait for hours or days for the response. We're there right away. We have a blog where the customers could ask questions. We're available on WhatsApp and Facebook. So there are a lot of different platforms that we're around on. Um, we are also working very hard in terms of our pricing, and we're able to give our customers work out with our customers the best deal possible. So we want to for our customers to be happy, to be welcomed, and to be coming back.
Looking ahead, how do you see the future of vintage shopping evolving, especially with the rise of online platforms? What role do you envision independent stories like yours playing in this landscape?
I believe that customers right now, they understand, they want that personal attention. They just don't want to be one of they want to feel welcomed. So I think that stores like mine that are able to work with the customer directly, it's like almost like walking into the store and having a salesman working with you, adjusting and tailoring a suit or a bag to your needs. So that's how I want my customers to feel in my store. And I truly believe that such big platforms like Vestiaire or PoshMark are able to do that. So our store and stores like mine, they are all about customization, working with the customer directly and making it personal.
Your journey is truly inspiring for anyone looking to make their mark in the vintage fashion industry. Before we wrap up, do you have any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs who might be considering opening their own vintage store or shop?
My advice is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid and don't put it off. You don't have to dive in and spend thousands and tens of thousands of dollars right away. You could just slowly navigate away from the big platforms into opening your own store. My advice, don't be afraid, be passionate, and be tenacious.
All right, Masha, as we're nearing the end of our chat, I've saved the quirky question for last. Considering all the items currently available in the Stefany Bags store, if you had to choose one item to wear or carry every single day for an entire week, which piece would it be and why?
Oh, there are just so many items that I would love to carry on an everyday basis, but I guess the one that stands out right now would be the Gucci bag, the crossbody bag. Um, it's beautiful, it's casual, it's nice neutral color. It could be worn on an everyday basis, it could be worn out. It's versatile, it's comfortable. That's going to be my choice. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been amazing to share my journey with all of you. It's incredible to transform a passion for vintage into something tangible that others can appreciate and enjoy. It just proves that with enough love for what you do and a lot of hard work, you can create something truly special. For everyone listening, I invite you to visit Stefany Bags, Shoes and More. We've curated some amazing pieces from the past you won't find just anywhere else. It's a wonderful opportunity to connect with history and the stories behind each item. So until we meet again, keep loving those old treasures and the stories they bring. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.